Let's talk about voles. V as in Victor, O-L-E-S. These are small mouse-like creatures that are native to Nebraska, and we actually have 3 species. But you don't need to know the difference between the 3 types. 2 of them are very common across the entire state. They're a granivore, which means they eat small grains. They will also nibble in the winter grass down to its nub, down to the crown, and leave trails. They will also, in the winter, if they're underneath some kind of mulch, get nutrients from just under the bark of young trees. And of course, when they're doing this, going for the crown of the grass or looking for that nutrients at the base of the tree or under the bark of the tree, they can cause some damage to landscape stock. And so this is when they become a problem instead of the benefit that they normally are in the ecosystem. So if you have landscaping where they're a problem, what you need to do is be cognizant if they're there. Now, most of the time they're there year-round, and their populations or numbers change kind of automatically. They're what we call a cyclic microtein rodent, which means some years they'll have just 25 little mice per acre. And then a couple of years later, there's 250 of them. And of course, 250 can do a lot more damage and show a lot more signs. So when they go up and then go down, some people think they've gotten rid of them or they left, but then they resurge back. And that's just normal. They're just this up and down population type thing. Well, when they're up or starting to go up is when we see the signs. And probably the most prominent sign in the winter of the voles is trails in the grass. Now, they're more prominent causing these trails in the grass if you feed the birds or there's bird feeders around, because that bird seed that drops is a grain. That's their food. That's a buffet, okay? So any of that grain that drops, or if you have a flower bed that you didn't really clean all the seed out of for one reason or another, and that's grain for them. Now, if there's snow cover, that's even better, because under the snow, it's warm. It's an igloo, okay? So under the snow, they will actually carve tunnels in the grass. Now, they chew the grass down to the nub and make these, so to speak, runs between their holes, and they'll make these runs up to places like where bird feeders are, and then back to, they may go underneath a shrub where they have their holes, or in a garden where they have their holes, or they may have their holes in a rock wall or keystone wall or some kind of retaining wall. All these things are good places for them. Now, their holes have no dirt around them. They're pretty wide open. Sometimes there's a small pile of dirt. But then there's this trail, and it's not an upheavement of the grass like moles. It's actually a trail, okay? And what you want to do is you want to get rid of them as best as possible. And the best way to get rid of them is to use a trap. Most poisons are very insignificant on taking care of them, and then it could cause problems for birds of prey, dogs and cats that may grab them when they're sick, okay? So what we recommend, first off, is the box trap. Now these traps you can wind up, and they'll hold up to 15 voles. You see that trail, or you find that hole, you nestle this in the grass, so the trail can go right in there. And you could, if you want, put a little bit of bird seed in there, or right at the entrance. You don't need to put anything inside of it. And they go in there. And if it's a warm night, you may get 4 or 5 at a time in this. Now, if it's in the winter, they'll die in there due to exposure. If it's in the summer, they may be still alive, and you can do what you want with them once they get in here. So you may have to move this around, or you may have to use different types. This is another one. Just put it right next to the trail. They run in. It's a one-way door. And then for single catches, if you don't think you have too many, you can have this type. This is called a Sherman trap. Put a little seed in there. It goes in, it hits the treadle, and it closes. Now, the thing is, you may have to use several of these around the area, but trapping is your best method. Using bird seed, rolled oats as bait is the best bait. And go for warmer nights, not the sub-zero nights in the winter. They'll be out foraging when it may be only around freezing. So good luck on getting those voles. And remember, the damage they do in the grass is temporary. The grass will come back. The damage they do to the base of the trees, that's permanent. So be more worried about getting them away from those small young trees than worry about the little squirrely marks in your turf.